Ladies and guys whose Tinder pictures absolutely suck, which, let's be honest, is most of you, Andy here, author of the best Tinder guide on the internet. This is the Kill You're in a Loser show. Let's fucking go. We, my friends, are going to go over a couple of articles that I've written in the past, because this is starting to come up quite a bit, where guys will say, I'm not getting enough matches, or I'm not getting any matches on Tinder. What's going on? Am I shadow banned on Tinder? Is Tinder a scam? Is something going wrong? Is it because of lockdowns and COVID and all that sort of crap? No, it's because your Tinder pictures suck. So if you're not getting enough matches, it's because your pictures are horrible. Or you live in a town with like 500 people, fine, that's a little different. But generally speaking, it's because your pictures suck. So I've got a couple of articles here that I'm going to pull up in a second, and we're going to basically go through them. But the first thing that I want to make clear is, if your pictures suck right now, that's, first of all, not a reflection on you. That doesn't mean you suck. I'm not saying you suck. I'm saying your pictures need improvement. It's a good thing, because it means when you improve your pictures, you will get more matches. So there's room for improvement. That can only ever be a good thing. And the third thing I'll say is, all of this hinges upon you improving yourself and working on your self-improvement and improving your looks, especially because Tinder, let's be clear, is a shallow app. It's a shallow dating app. The game of dating is in itself. Shallow isn't the right word, but looks will always come first, whether that's going outside and hitting on girls in person, whether that's on Tinder, but especially on Tinder. You only have a couple of seconds to make a first impression. She's either going to swipe left or swipe right. Girls usually sit there on Tinder and kind of just like go like this, like super quick. They're not really paying that much attention to each guy. And guys, when they use Tinder, they're just like swiping right. So most people don't really take very long on Tinder. So it's your first picture is the most important. And then, your second and third, sure, they're important as well. But if your pictures suck, you're not even going to get a chance. You might be the most wonderful human being of all time. You might be the most amazing guy ever. Maybe you could even be a fucking sex god and you're going to fuck her brains out. But if you don't take the time and the effort to take some decent pictures, you're not going to get any matches. And then you're just going to come to me and say, oh, I'm not getting matches. What's going on? Your pictures suck. So let's work on them. I'll pull these articles up now. The first article that we're going to take a look at is one called Why Your Tinder Pictures Suck and How to Fix Them. So I ran this experiment a while ago, quite a few years ago. So at the end of like 2019. And I think I did it earlier than that, but I reposted this article. I basically went through and I had a female friend's, it was either one of the girls that I was sleeping with or a friend or something. And I got her Tinder profile with permission, obviously. And I got a bunch of matches. I think I just hit swipe. Like I was just swiping right on every single chick, or every single guy, I should say. And I got like 1,000 matches on her profile of men. And I basically went through and I checked every single fucking one. It took me like 2.5 weeks or something to do this experiment. And I categorized what I could see that guys were doing wrong. There are a couple of guys that were doing things like really, really, really well. They had amazing pictures. They looked good. They were lean with abs, that kind of shit. But there are a hell of a lot of like common mistakes. And so I categorized it into, I think it ended up being, let's have a look. Yeah, 15 different mistakes that I could see that jumped out at me. And there'll be more mistakes than this. This isn't the full list, but these are the 15 most common, like huge mistakes. And if you're doing any of these are the ones where you'll make the quickest gains if you stop doing these. So the second thing I'll say is you want to work to, and we're going to cover this in a second. We'll go over another article I wrote on like what you want to be aiming for, like what you want to look at. But I'll quickly show you my Tinder profile. So this is the one, roughly the same one I'm using now. A couple of these pictures are a little different. So those are the first 6 pictures. You can see those on screen. And then those are the last 3, just something a bit silly down there. But you can kind of see, the first thing I'm showing off is my body. That was when I lost weight, got as lean as I possibly could. I had abs, I'm flexing like crazy in that picture, by the way. And the lighting is perfect. And, I've touched it up in Photoshop and all that. So if you don't have the world's most perfect body, this is like ideal circumstances. So, you can recreate something like this, lose weight as much as you want if you want, and take a photo like this. If you're not there yet, that's fine. Just keep working on yourself. This, like I said, was me at my peak. And then the rest of the photos are obviously very sexual. There's a picture of me with my girlfriend Imogen up there. There's obviously a lot of BDSM pictures, very sexual stuff. There's me in the gym. There's a fun one with a fucking cat. I do need to replace a couple of these photos. Like I think I actually already have. I don't use that newspaper one anymore, and I don't use the pink hair one. I've got some better photos now where I look like I'm, modeling and showing off and shit. But this is by no means a perfect profile, but this gets me laid. This is what's gotten me laid for years. Does more than good enough. If you want to go the sexual route and do some, BDSM pictures like this, go for it. These are by no means mandatory, by the way. This is just if you want to get laid way easier with way less effort. Like, girls, when they see this profile, they know what you're about. You don't waste any time on a date, like, wondering if she's going to go back to your apartment. It's like, no, yeah, we're going to fuck and we're going to do BDSM. It's not even up for discussion. Like, you basically ask them before. I also ask them before we meet, like, have you ever done BDSM? Do you want to? They say yes, so blah, blah, blah. But the point that I'm getting at here is this is by no means a perfect profile, but this is more than adequate to get the job done. So everything we're going to talk about here today, please don't think you have to have a perfect profile. Please don't think you have to have perfect pictures. That's not what I'm saying. But we'll start with the huge mistakes, and a lot of the mistakes that you'll see here are just like really fucking terrible mistakes. And a lot of guys make these mistakes because if you're not a professional photographer, or if you haven't taken photos of yourself, then, how are you supposed to know? And if this is your first, rodeo, and this is the first time you've jumped on Tinder, like, how are you going to know what a good Tinder profile looks like? So I'm not going to like yell. I hope it's clear that I'm not trying to be disparaging here. If you find that you make some of these mistakes, please don't take it personally. It's more just like, okay, like, these are the things that I could do better. So with that, let's jump into it. So the first mistake is using a shitty camera. So using a fucking smartphone. I don't know how many times I have to have this discussion, but a smartphone is not as good as a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, a proper camera. You will never get as good a photo with smartphones. I know that the latest iPhones and shit like that, like, oh my God, but they come close. It's like, yes, they come close, but they don't quite get there. For a million reasons, I've written an article on why a DSLR or a mirrorless camera is better than a smartphone camera. Go and read that. I'll leave links in the description below to all of these articles. Go and read that. It's a full long list. I'm not going to cover it here, but if you want to get the best photos you can, don't fuck around with your phone. They just don't take as good photos. Just trust me on that. The second thing I'll say is, and by the way, most of the photos in this article are taken with a smartphone, and you'll see why they all look like shit. And then I'm going to show you in a second an article full of good photos, and almost every single photo in that article has been taken with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, a proper camera. And, they're plenty cheap. There's plenty of cheap ones, especially if you buy a secondhand one. They're not expensive. I've got a guide on buying them. You can find that through this article. But the second mistake here that people make is bad lighting. So I'll scroll down. You can see these examples. Remember that I have pulled these from Tinder. These are actual Tinder photos. I mean, you can even see down the very bottom, you can see the little orange bit from Tinder, and you can see the white bar at the top showing you which photo it is. I've pulled these literally from Tinder. And these are only, by the way, there were hundreds of these. I'm not going to fill an article full of hundreds of bad examples, but 16 is enough. Like, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, you can't see the guy, you can't see his face, you can't see what he's doing. It just looks low effort. It looks half-assed. It looks like you can't be bothered. It looks like you don't have any decent photos of yourself. It looks like you don't have a decent camera as well, because these are all taken with a smartphone, and a DSLR, yes, does take better photos in the dark with lower lighting. So very fucking lazy. In the same sort of thread, bad lighting can also mean during the daytime. So if you have a look at all these photos here, they are all extremely dark, as in the person themselves is dark because the background is so bright. And now that's something a DSLR or a mirrorless camera does better as well. It does a better job of balancing a really bright background or a really dark and a really dark foreground. But the better way of getting around this is just either face the light, like stand facing towards the light, not having it behind you, or just go somewhere in the shade. Don't take a photo with the background that is so bright that you just become dark. Because again, it just looks low quality, it looks shit, you can't see your face, and none of these are very interesting photos either. And then this is the worst type of lighting that you'll get, which is you can see the dark shadows under this guy's eyes. even the shadow under his head, but especially the ones under the eyes, is because he's being lit from overhead. There's a light, like a street light or something above his head. You'll get the same thing if you're standing in the bathroom and there's a light above your head where it casts shadows under your eyes and it makes you look like a fucking serial killer. So definitely don't do that. Mistake number 3 is just poor quality photos. So either blurry, out of focus, very grainy and pixelated, just taken with a shit phone, right? This is like probably the most common one that came up when I did this experiment. There's just so many like shitty, grainy, blurry, crappy photos. Like they just look half-assed. You look like you took them in the 90s. You look like you can't be bothered. It's just low fucking effort. And if you're not putting effort in on Tinder, why the fuck would she bother to meet you? If you don't take yourself seriously, why would she take you seriously? I've done an article on that, or a podcast on that, I should say, called If You Don't Take Yourself Seriously, How Can You Expect Anyone Else to? And your Tinder photos are basically your first and usually only impression, unless you make a good impression and then she'll check your other pictures. But you have one shot, really, to grab her attention. And if you put a half-assed, grainy, blurry, shitty photo on there that looks like you just pulled it off the internet from 10 years ago, why the fuck would she bother to meet you? You look like you're not that serious. And guys will say the opposite and say, oh, but I don't want to look too try-hard. And it's like, cool, if you're not going to try, then what the fuck are you doing here? Part of getting laid involves you trying really fucking hard. If that makes you look try-hard, good. Mistake number 4 is an extreme close-up selfie of your face. Now, I'll add the caveat, if you are ridiculously attractive, like you literally look like a male fucking model, then sure, you can do this, but you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you were really fucking attractive to the point where you could take a selfie. You would just take a selfie and girls would match with you. I've seen that from ridiculously attractive guys. They just take fucking selfies and get plenty of matches, more matches than I can get with my best photos. So you wouldn't be that guy if you were listening to this. So for everyone else, do not take extreme close-up selfies of your face. It just looks horrible. You're not that fucking pretty. You're not attractive. Guys just don't look good close up. We're not women. We're not supposed to have a camera this fucking close to our face taking a selfie. You just aren't pretty. You don't have enough in your face to carry an entire photo. Certainly not if that's one of your first photos. That's a horrible first impression. Again, it looks like you're... For women, it works because they're pretty and we like to look at their face. For guys, it just looks self-conceited and it looks weird. It's weird as fuck. There's a subgenre of this where guys will like cut half their face off. There were so many of these when I ran this experiment where they'll just like have the side of their face on the edge of the frame. I don't even know what the fuck that is. That's like worse than just taking a selfie of yourself. Just don't do it. Just like take a photo with you standing back a little bit. You don't need your entire face to fill the entire fucking frame. You're not that pretty. All you're doing is showing off your blemishes, showing off that you're not as attractive as a woman. It just looks like you're badly calibrated. Like you don't understand social cues. And one of the biggest social cues is guys don't take selfies of themselves close up. It doesn't look good. Mistake number 5, and this is a hugely common one, taking bathroom or bedroom selfies. I know a lot of you listening are going to go, oh shit, that's me. Where you just grab your phone, you take a photo in the fucking bathroom or the bathroom at the gym, or you're in front of the gym mirror and you're like flexing, or you're in your bedroom. Again, it just looks so fucking half-assed. And this one down the bottom... This one down the bottom is the same guy in the same bathroom wearing almost the same clothes, and he's taken he had 3 photos of himself on his Tinder profile. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, you can't leave the house for 5 seconds and you're not that interesting, and he wasn't that attractive. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, do something interesting. Bathroom selfies or bedroom selfies or photos of you at the gym in front of the mirror in the bathroom are not that fucking interesting. Do something with a little more effort put into it. Give someone else your phone or a camera. Again, use a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Don't use your fucking phone. Give someone else a camera or pay a photographer or get a friend who has a camera or whatever you got to do and take some photos where you're doing something interesting, not just in your bathroom or in your bedroom. It looks like you don't leave the house. It looks like you don't have any hobbies. It looks like you don't have any friends. It looks incredibly fucking lonely. And that is not the vibe that we're trying to give off if you're trying to get laid or get a girlfriend on Tinder. You don't want to look like a lonely guy. Mistake number 6 is a lack of variety or depth. So basically you're doing the same thing in every photo. So very similar to, that guy above who had 3 photos of himself in his bedroom or his bathroom or whatever it was. this, like, here's an example of a guy who just has like 5 different gym selfies. Here's another guy. This guy has a great body, but he has 5 fucking photos. And I showed this profile to a bunch of women, and they all said, like, he looks really boring and like arrogant. Like he loves himself too much because all he's doing is showing off his body and nothing else, and not doing a good job. There's no variety between the pictures. Now, this guy might be the coolest, most interesting guy of all time, but that does not come across in his Tinder profile. These are all his photos, by the way. He only had 5 photos in his profile, and that's it. He's like, look at my shirtless body. That's it. And one where I wear a shirt, but I'm still flexing. Like, what does that tell you about this guy? Why would a girl meet this guy? Why would anyone want to meet this guy? What are you going to do? Just, like, look at his body? That's going to be interesting for all of 30 minutes. And then, what? You're having sex with a shallow, vacuous, gym nut? And again, I don't know this guy. He might not be shallow and vacuous, but that's the impression you get from this. And remember, you only have one shot at this. If girls look at your profile, yes, it's a numbers game, sure. But if most girls are looking at this profile and going like, is this it? Because if he just tweaked this a little bit, if he had a photo of himself shirtless at the beach with some friends, and then maybe a shirtless photo of himself holding a little puppy or something, and then a photo of him doing some pull-ups or something, and then a couple of photos of him out with mates, and then a photo of him traveling or something. Suddenly, it's the exact same guy, just as attractive. Girls are going to get just as turned on by his body, but now he's actually fucking interesting. And he's not shallow, and he looks like he actually put in some effort. Here's another example. There was this guy that had, I think he had a couple more as well, like just photos of him doing yoga. And it's like, that's interesting, sure. But like 1 or 2 photos is all you ever need. This guy as well, he just had, his entire profile was him just basically sitting or standing in front of landmarks. And sure, that's interesting for a couple of photos. But if you have that as your only hobby in your photos, or if that looks like the only thing, you look like a one-dimensional character. And so this isn't like, I will say with this guy, this isn't the worst, most egregious thing in the entire world. He still is going to look way more interesting than, say, the guy who just has 5 shirtless pictures, right? But this guy could, again, clean up his profile, touch up, like take some different pictures, have some photos of him with mates. Like, none of his photos have him with mates. He could have a photo of his body if he's got a decent body. He could have a photo of him with a pet. He could have a photo of him doing some hobbies. Traveling is only one hobby. There's other hobbies. Blah, 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 blah. It just looks a little one-dimensional. Mistake number 7 is very similar. So it's several photos of you in the same location. So this guy's doing the exact same thing. This guy has an elite body, and he's taken 3 fucking photos of him in the same bathroom toilet at the gym. Like, there's literally a fucking urinal behind him. What, he couldn't find a mirror that doesn't have somewhere where guys get their dicks out and piss on a wall? He couldn't go somewhere else to take these fucking photos. The lighting is also awful. It's overhead, as I said before. That gives you, horrible bags under your eyes. It's just an unflattering light. He's taking it with a shitty phone. It's the same fucking photo 3 times. Yes, he has an amazing body, so he could make this far more interesting if he went to the beach, if he had some photos of himself with friends, if he had a photo of, I don't know, himself surfing or something. Like, a million different things. Even in the gym, not in the fucking toilet where you get your dick out and piss on a wall. And you fucking pull your fucking pants down, spread your ass cheeks and take a shit. Why is he taking a photo to get laid somewhere where there's feces and urine? Like, that, Jesus Christ, come on. This next guy, very similar. He just had like 4 photos of himself at the beach. They're all exactly the same. It's just boring. This guy here as well, he had 2 photos of himself in a fitting room at a store. I don't even know what that is. That's like a slightly better version compared to taking photos of yourself at home in front of your bathroom mirror, but not much better. At least he left the house, I guess. Mistake number 8 is an awkward or uncomfortable smile or pose, or when you're a little too staged or stiff. This is something that came up a lot. If you can't smile like comfortably where it looks decent, just don't smile. Just look off into the distance and look very serious, or look at the camera very seriously, or look down at the ground and look kind of like shy and bashful. That can be a decent photo sometimes, although just be careful that can sometimes come across as a little like effeminate. So there's an art to it, but all of that is better posing than staring straight at the camera, trying to smile and just being very uncomfortable. And similar to that is standing very uncomfortably. So you can see in a lot of these poses, like the first 3, The guys just have like their hands in their pockets or behind their back, and it's just a very awkward sort of pose. It's far easier to pose if you lean on something, or if you sit down on a bench, or if you have your phone in your hand so you look like you're doing something, or if you just look off into the distance. You know, it can also look awkward if you fold your arms. I see guys doing that a lot, where they just fold their arms. Play around with it a little more. Lean on stuff, sit on stuff, look off into the distance, be doing something, have a prop in your hand, whether that's your phone, a football, like just something. You know, be walking, especially if you use a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Like I said, what you do is you get your photographer to get ready for the photos and then just hold the button down. So they're rapid fire shooting, you know, hundreds of photos of you as you walk towards the camera. Don't look at the camera, but just kind of like look off in the distance, walk towards the camera and take hundreds of those photos. Repeat that a couple of times. Out of those hundreds of photos, some of them will look really fucking natural and you'll be like walking towards the camera. I'll show you what I mean, like this. That kind of photo where you are walking towards the camera, or that one, and the photographer has just taken hundreds of photos and you happen to be in exactly the right pose in a couple of them. This is another good example. This is another good example where you're like walking mid-pose. So that always looks a lot better than just sort of standing there awkwardly. I almost never let any of my clients, if I go out to do a photo shoot of someone, I almost never let them just stand there because it always looks awkward. Always. Always. If you look at models, that's not how they pose. You don't just stand there. You have something in your hand, you lean against something, you sit on something, you're walking. You need to be in action, not just like sitting there or standing there stiff and boring. At a cafe, you can be sitting there sort of like sipping a cup of coffee or something. That's an interesting pose. Like, but doing something that isn't just stand exactly still and look at the camera or even look off to the distance. Just don't stand there completely still. That's always awkward. Mistake number 9 is a bad angle or too far away. So I saw this a lot where guys would have the phone and they'd, instead of holding it like, you know, and I don't recommend you use a phone anyway, but instead of like holding it at eye level, they hold it like down here, like, and then it's looking up at you. And you have that like horrible, it's like if I do this on camera right now, you'll be able to see up my nose. It's not a very flattering look, but for some reason, lots of guys were doing this on Tinder. I noticed it's like, I'm not sure if they know that it makes them look incredibly unattractive or if they're doing it ironically, but it just looks fucking awful. You can see up your nose. It makes your chin and your cheeks look fat. It's not flattering. You can see your beard. It's just not a fucking pretty... I don't know what the fuck they were doing. Similarly, a lot of guys will stand way too far back, like off in the distance. And so I give you an example here. Generally speaking, now you don't want to be as close as this woman on the right. Like, don't take a photo that close, but you can see how like on the left, she's way too far back. And then on the right, that's a little better. Here's a better example. On the left, you know, way too far back. On the right, a little closer. I love how in this photo, you can see my nose too. I'm a fucking hypocrite, but that wasn't my Tinder picture. That was me quickly posing for a photo for this example. So generally speaking, you want to be a little closer, not like way off in the distance. A lot of guys would do that. They, especially with landmarks. If we scroll back up, a lot of these guys with the landmarks, they're just like miles away in the distance, especially like this second guy here and then this guy down here. It'd be better if you were a little closer so you're filling a little more of the frame and then you still have that nice background as well. Next mistake is you being the only person in all of your photos. So it's fine if you're, you know, the only person in most of your photos, fine. But if you don't have a single photo of you with a friend or another girl or something like that, you do look a little bit like a loner. Like you got no friends, you know, you don't really socialize and stuff like that. So I saw that a lot. Like you can see these examples here. Each row is a different person. So the top row is like one person. The second row is another person. Third row is another person. And they were just like, that's their whole profile. First guy just had 3 selfies of himself. Second guy had like 5 selfies of himself. Last guy had like fucking 9 selfies of just himself with nobody else. It makes you look like you don't have any friends. It looks just a little bit weird. You only need 1 photo of yourself with friends. I have 1 photo of me with Imogen. Just a photo with a friend, a photo with a girl, whatever it is, just another human being. Hell, even if it's like a fucking photo of you and there's people in the background, that's better than nothing. Just something to show that like you interact with other people. Mistake number 11 is being way too silly and having too much silliness in your Tinder profile. Now, I'll make it clear that I'm all for being a little silly with some of your pictures. I have a couple of silly pictures I think I have one silly picture at the moment in my profile. You know, my bio has a joke in it. That's fine. But it's an issue if all of your photos are silly. Like if every single one of them is a meme or, you know, just absolutely ridiculous, or you're making goofy faces, or you're clearly not trying, or, you know, and I'm talking in every photo. Not just one or two photos. If you're being silly in every single photos, essentially you're just being a joke. Like you're not taking yourself seriously. You look like you're just on there to be silly. And there are plenty of women that are on there to be silly, and you'll match with them and they'll waste your time. You can waste each other's time. But if you're actually serious about meeting someone, then don't be silly in every single picture. You do want to look like you're actually serious if your intentions are to meet up. And obviously that doesn't mean become boring and stiff and all that, but you guys get that there's a middle ground. Mistake number 12, similar to the previous ones, it's you having several pictures of yourself wearing the exact same goddamn clothes. This came up a lot, like a hell of a lot. I saw this all the time. Like this guy here who had, you know, 3 photos where he's wearing this like brown shirt and then 2 photos of himself in the white shirt, and he's wearing the exact same clothes in like the top 3 same clothes, bottom 2, same clothes. And it just looks like you went out for a photo shoot and you took the 5 photos and you're like, there we go, done. Now I don't have to ever try it ever again. It just looks like half-assed, like you can't be bothered. He's also sitting way too far back. It's taken with a shitty phone. You know, there's 500 things wrong with this. I saw it a lot in other people's profiles, like this guy here. And this guy has like 4 photos of himself with the same like black or gray shirt, and he's not wearing any accessories. He just looks like he's not trying. This guy here who just had 2 exact same photos of himself in the same suit. I don't know what the fuck the point of that is. This guy here had the same shirt and shorts. You know, this guy here, it's the guy on the right here, and then he's here. So he's got the same blue thing and a necklace. Same thing here. Just switch your clothes up a little more. It looks like you've put more effort into your profile. You've bothered to take photos over multiple days rather than, you know, all on the same day or whatever. It just looks a little better. It does stick out, especially if you start having like, you know, like this guy, like 3, or this guy, like 3 photos where you're wearing the same clothes. Then it does look weird. Even 2 photos with the same clothes, like it just does look a bit like, oh, you were wearing that in the other photo. It's just kind of a bit weird. Mistake number 13 is only having 1 picture. I can't believe I even need to say this, but take more than 1 fucking picture. If you have 1 picture of yourself, you're not going to get any matches. I don't even think we need to say anything more than that, but you are not going to have any matches. If that 1 picture of yourself was the world's best picture and you look like a fucking god in it, you're going to look like a fake profile. It's going to look like you just stole someone's amazing looking photo off the internet and uploaded it, and you're trying to catfish or waste time or something. And if you have that 1 photo and it's not the world's most amazing photo, congratulations, you're going to get 0 matches. So, mistake number 14, similar to being silly, is having memes and quotes and just basically being a fucking goofball. I saw a lot of guys that have like memes, like literally memes posted on their profile, and it just looks like you're fucking around. Like, fine, if you want to put 1 meme right at the end of your profile, fine. I still wouldn't recommend it, but fine. But I saw a lot of guys that would just have mostly memes and silly pictures and shit like that. And just like I said with the silly pictures one, it just shows that you're on there to waste time. You're not really there to actually meet people. Number 15, having shots of animals, but you're not in the photo. It's not the worst thing on this list, but it's just such a failed missed opportunity that I wanted to put it here. And I saw it quite a few times where someone would have the world's cutest dog. Like, look at this fucking dog down here with the beanie. How goddamn adorable is that? And you've missed such a massive opportunity to have yourself in the photo holding that dog, which is just a photo that's orders of magnitude better and makes you look orders of magnitude more attractive rather than just this cute animal. I'll show you some examples of what looks good with dogs. Look at how much better these photos look because these guys are holding the fucking animals. Like, these are all way better pictures because the animals are actually in the fucking photo, or the guys are actually in the photo with the animals. So you're missing a huge opportunity if you don't have yourself in the fucking frame with the animal. In terms of how to fix it, I'll leave a link in the description below to my Tinder guide. Just go through and read that. I talk about how to take better pictures, how to improve your looks, all that kind of crap. But one thing that we will quickly cover here, because I don't want this to drag on too long, but we'll cover this super quick, maybe 5 minutes, is go and read. I will leave a link in the description to this as well, to an article I did called Tinder Photos and Inspiration. And in this one, I basically go through a whole list of like photos that look really amazing. And I say, shoot for these photos, like aim to replicate these photos. If you're not as attractive as these guys, read the Tinder guide. I talk about how to improve your looks. Yes, these guys are attractive. That's the fucking point. I told you that self-improvement is always the foundation of a good sex life, but we'll go through these super quick. So the first type of photos that look really good are street or casual photos. So as I said before, you can do ones where you're just walking towards the camera like that, get your photographer or yourself with the tripod or whatever to take hundreds of photos and you'll look good in some of them. You can do like a casual cafe shot, like what I talked about before, like that. You can do, as I said, if you're sitting on a bench, that can look good as well. You can even be by a wall, but see how he's leaning on the wall, so it's less awkward. He's standing there, but he's not awkward because he's doing shit with his hands. So there's a lot of like casual street photos that look really good. And those are kind of the foundation of most people's profiles from what I've seen. Like most people with good photos, because these are really fucking easy to take. Just dress yourself really well. Even like this guy, he's literally just standing there. See what I mean about having your phone? So it's a little more interesting than you just awkwardly standing there with both arms by your side. You just go out somewhere interesting, take a fucking photo, done. Like they're the easiest photos to do. Sports and gym photos will always look really good. So compare those to that other guy that we talked about previously, where I said the guy who had the photos of him in the bathroom, in the toilet with the urinal behind him, they just didn't look good. He looked amazing, but they didn't look good. Compare that to like this. Like you're in action. That looks interesting. Even like this. That's interesting. That's fucking interesting. Something that shows off your body and is more interesting. Here's a guy just literally showing off his body. And yeah, he's using a smartphone. I don't recommend that. Fine, whatever. He's attractive enough that it doesn't matter too much. But there are more interesting ways of taking a photo of your body, in the middle of rock climbing versus you just standing in the toilets at the bathroom. You can also take sports photos. You could do something interesting like that. I mean, hell, even if you play fucking golf, you know what I mean? Shout outs to golf. Hobby photos and even photos of your job will always be interesting. So, if you got a decent body, rip your shirt off. That's a way better topless photo. Imagine if that guy that I said had those 5 photos just of his fucking body and he looked really shallow and vacuous. Imagine if he had a photo like this where he's showing off a hobby that he has. If you're a fucking DJ, I feel like if you're a DJ, you already have good photos of yourself. But, no matter what your hobby, you can find an interesting way to show it off. I've seen plenty of like drummers and shit that just don't have good photos. I say, go take a photo of you playing the drums or something. And suddenly like, holy shit, I'm getting way more matches. So throwing in your hobbies or your profession. I also love this photo because this is fucking Magnus Carlsen, who's one of the least attractive men that you'll ever find. But that is a really fucking sick photo of him. And he's a chess nerd, by the way. He's like the best fucking chess master of all time. And he's fucking playing chess. He's a chess nerd. And you can't say that's not a sick fucking photo. So I don't want to hear the excuse of my hobby's boring and girls won't like it. Sorry, but that's a sick fucking photo of chess. So whatever your hobby is, you can find an awesome way to make it look interesting. Here's another good photo. This guy's a fucking mathematician. He's old too. He's like 50 something. You can't say that's not a sexy fucking photo. There are ways to sex up your profession or your hobby, no matter what it is. Travel photos, outdoor photos, those are easy. We don't need to dwell on this. They're always going to look good. But see how these are way more interesting photos versus those other ones I showed you before with the guys just kind of standing next to a landmark. These guys are actually doing something with each of the landmarks. Like, here he's like lazing on the beach. Here, he's getting down and crouching. It's an interesting angle. He's doing something interesting with his hands. Here, he's posing against the fucking boat. Like, make it more interesting. Even here, he's sitting on a fucking rock. It's way more interesting than you just like standing there next or in front of the landmark. Even this, in front of the fucking landmark, but he's in the middle of walking. It's almost like he's ignoring the landmark. He's busy. He's on a mission. That's a cool fucking photo. Way more interesting than you standing in front of the Eiffel Tower boring. Dogs, animals will always look good. So just grab your animal. If you got a decent body, hell, even if you don't, this guy doesn't have the world's most, he doesn't have a good body, but like fucking rip your shirt off, cuddle a dog. Animals will always look good. Physique and body shots. If you don't have a great physique, work on it. when you do have a good physique, yeah, just go out and show it off and see how these are way more natural photos and they're more interesting compared to you standing in the fucking bathroom at the gym. You know, this guy, he's showing off his body, but he's doing it at a laundromat. Is that not an interesting photo? It's a sexy photo with sex appeal. That's a cool fucking photo. This guy, that's a cool fucking pose. That's a cool fucking, like, it's like, what's he looking at? What's he smiling at? It's interesting. This guy, he's about to go fucking skateboard. These are all way more interesting photos. Hell, even just grab a fucking football, as I said before, and pose with it. That is way more interesting than you standing in front of the fucking bathroom mirror at the gym. Even that. He's showing off his body. All he's doing is stepping over the goddamn barbell with, like, what? 15 pounds on it? What the fuck is he doing with that? But you know what I mean? That's an interesting photo. It's a really intense photo, the way he's looking. You can make your body shots look interesting as fuck, but you have to put in some effort. And then silly photos, you know, this is me. I have silly photos. This is me as well. I got plenty of silly photos. Sure, throw in a silly photo if you want to. That's fucking adorable. They both look the same. They have the same face. Oh my God, their eyes are the same too, and they have the same beard. That's actually hilarious. But, you know, throw in some, like, goofy fucking photos. Why not? If you want to, you know, that's me as well. Back in my younger days. Even just something like that. If you want to throw something silly in, go for it. You don't have to, by the way. You don't have to have a silly photo, but if you got one, sure, go nuts. Other types of photos, you know, group photos of you with friends, photos of you with girls. Just make sure she's attractive, obviously. You know, voyeur photos, as in a photo that someone took of you when you weren't looking, as long as they look interesting. You know, plenty of photos like that. I go through the rest of this article. I link to a couple of people that are, you know, have decent photos and stuff like that. We will wrap it up there, just like I wrap it up when I sleep with your mother. Always wrap it up because you got to stay safe. But I hope you guys got something out of this. If you've been making those mistakes yourself, there is always room for improvement. In terms of how to improve your looks, I'm going to do a super short video. I'm going to do it next. I'm going to sit down and record it right now, so it'll be out next. Watch tomorrow's video, and I will talk about how to work on your looks. It's going to be super brief. I'm just going to talk about the things that you need to improve and the things you want to work on. That will always be the foundation of a good set of Tinder photos. But in the meantime, like, go out and take some better photos. Like, I've just given you a lot of inspiration there. I've just walked you through how you can spruce up your own photos, alternatives for if you're making those mistakes, how you can improve them, all that sort of stuff. As always, guys, go out there, crush your goals, get some pussy, get laid on Tinder,